we're getting to the meat and potatoes of this module. So we've taken a look at the overview of what we're learning. We've taken a look at 4 student adjustments to kind of build the why to why we're going to explore these next 5 elements. Because what we want to do is be able to create the conditions, help the students build some learner agency, some independence, as well as ourselves to be better educators, as we are also adjusting on the fly and learning lots of new things that we maybe have not had to ever do before. And so these are our 5 things for you to think about. And here's how this is going to operate in this section. You're going to be learning about these. I'm going to talk about them very, very briefly in this video. We're not going to go super in depth. That's what the Google group is for. That's where we're going to share more resources and our ideas and our examples, and we can get more in depth there. This is just to give you a quick snapshot of 5 things to consider. What you're going to be doing is the following. I want you to think about these 5 things for yourself as a lifelong learner. So I want you to actually create these things as if you are the quote-unquote student, because we're always in student mode. And you're going to be sharing that over in the Google groups. And the reason for this is we want you to be able to model for your students. And so as you're going through this and working through these processes, you can then start to think about, well, how would I teach that? How would I infuse these elements into my classroom with my students? What does that look like? We don't want it to feel like it's just a bunch of check boxes like, oh, this is so stupid. We want the kids to be able to understand the reasons why. And a lot of these things are going to come into their life skills, how we manage when we're off in college, or if we're on our own, or we're trying to do online learning by ourselves when our parents are at work. Just me trying to be a parent and a husband and someone that's trying to also run a job at the same time when all these things happening. So I'm going to give you 5 things. You're going to be then creating and experimenting with these yourself and reflecting over in the Google group and learning and then sharing how you're then going to be infusing that in your classroom. So here we go. Are you ready? Because I'm ready, and let's get this show on the road. Item number 1, we want students to be able to think about a schedule. Before we get into academic learning and homework assignments and all those things, we want kids to be able to think about, what does a weekly schedule look like? A daily schedule. For me, as you think about this, this is mine. This causes panic for my wife, who's much more organized, and I'm going to share what she does as a teacher in the Google group so you can see the examples that she's done. But I want you to think about a schedule and helping students develop a schedule. And we're going to do that by creating a schedule ourselves. So whether it's on paper or it's digital or you're a bullet journal or you're using Google Calendar, I want you to create a schedule. You can pick 1 day, maybe 3 days or a week, and map that out. And then your reflection, your real learning then is using that. What worked, what didn't work, what adjustments do you need to be making? And as you're sharing those in the Google group, we can start to pick and pull from the other amazing idea that other people are using. And then you can think about, okay, so as I built this schedule, how this works for me as an educator, how do I help students create a schedule to help them understand the management? It's going to help them be much more successful in their socio-emotional well-being, as well as more success for the academic learning. So number 1 is just thinking about how to create a schedule. It doesn't have to be this sloppy, but you do you. I don't want you to spend 20 years on some perfect template, unless that's what you do. It's more about how do we get a usable framework that works for you. Number 2, we want to think about location. And so I will share a video that I created back when we first had to go to remote learning, how I converted my office into a remote teaching / remote learning space. But I want you to think about location. We need to have a dedicated space. And we're going to dive into this much more over in the Google group, because I love the exploration of learning spaces. I used to do it through Makerspace, but now we're going to dive into it through remote and hybrid learning. We need a dedicated space. It can't be the same space that we play video games with, or laying in our bed, or things like that. We need a space that makes the brain feel like, okay, I'm in learner mode. I can set a timer for 20 minutes to do some independent work, and then I can take a break, and I can leave the space, and I can come back. We know all our living conditions are different, so these spaces don't have to cost money. It just has to be a dedicated spot, a corner of a room, a table that isn't used. The possibilities are endless. So for you, thinking about where is your space? Where's your dedicated space? And take pictures and let us know what that's working with. A lot of you already have it figured out from before. So what worked, what didn't work, what are materials you need, what are things that you're trying to develop, so we can turn around and help students create those same spaces. Number 3 is coherence. What I mean by coherence is when we're in a classroom, we know where to turn the papers in. We know where to sit. We know where the pencil sharpener is. We know where the whiteboard is. We know where the learning targets are. We know these things. The classroom is coherent because the teacher has created a very coherent space in their 4 walls. When we think about hybrid and we think about online, the coherence kind of just becomes disjointed. And so I want you to think about creating a visual of how your learning space, online, hybrid, face-to-face, can be coherent. Where are the elements? Where do I go as a student if I need to contact my teacher, if I need to access materials, if I need to find the assignment, if I need to check grades? Where are these places? And can we build some coherence for our students? And so this task here is building this coherent visual, this graphic of your classroom, whether physical classroom or virtual or a combo, that kids can then use to know where things are. Because we're going to lose coherence as a side effect of not being able to be face-to-face all the time. Number 4 is a mindset of caring. I love this phrase. I heard it from a professor in an online video I was watching, and I just think that that's really important. So thinking about, again, your learning space, but in this case, the mindset of caring. How are you going to create those conditions, which is very, very hard to do, especially if you're starting off online, building these relations, where the students care, number 1, for themselves, number 2, for their peers, and number 3, for you and the other educators and administrators and coaches that are involved. We are in a very squishy, unknown, kind of anxiety-ridden, tumultuous time. And so it is paramount that we all have a mindset of caring. So how are you going to nurture the mindset of caring as the educator of your classroom space? How are we going to help our students build this mindset of caring and understanding that we need to care for one another, because nobody has a clear-cut answer. Nobody has a clear-cut path. This is going to be full of mistakes and redos and trying things here and trying things there to really get it up and running. We learned a lot from before, but we're still going to make mistakes, and that's just part of the journey. So being vulnerable, and what does that vulnerability look like for you and your students and your colleagues? So here is just really more maybe reflection, but if you have found ways to create, this mindset of caring in your space, or you got some lessons or activities or things like that, I think that's the stuff we want to start to share. And number 5 kind of builds with all these, and it's very specific, but I think very important. Where do we ask questions? And so I think for yourself, as the educator, the administrator, you need to have a dedicated spot. Is that email? Is that through a Flipgrid? Is that through, a phone call? What is your method for people to ask you questions? And then secondly, how are you going to help students use that method? How are they going to be aware of that? 1, it helps so you're not just pinging things all over the place, constantly clicking and searching to see where the reactions are. But second, it helps build that coherence piece and the mindset of caring by going, hey, if you need to reach out to me, here is where I will respond. And so I want you to think about this kind of dedicated method for communication, for questions. And I think even as educators, as coaches, as admin, whatever your role is, what is your place? So maybe you're not directly working with students, but if I'm a teacher, where and who do I direct my questions to if I have questions about these things that are going to arise in this changing environment? So it's kind of twofold. So quick recap, and then it's off to the races and lots of sharing and connecting and building resources and going more in depth over in the Google groups on these things is, number 1, I want you to create a schedule either a 1 day or a 3 day or a week, and I want you to try to use it. And what does that look like for you? How does that feel? Is it time slots? Is it chunking out? I got some resources already on the page for you to think about. Is it a to-do list? Like, how are you scheduling your day to be successful? So it's not just random and you're not waiting till the last second. Create it for you, and then be thinking about how you could create that kind of activity with your students. Location. Where's your location for teaching and learning? Where's your dedicated spot? Let's see, picture, let's learn. What are materials? What are things that you have found to be useful and not useful? And how are you going to help students create that same type of environment in their space? Number 3, you're creating a visual, a graphic to build coherence of your learning space. Where are the things that I need to be successful for my learning? Number 4, mindset of caring. How are you creating the conditions where everybody cares for one another and, more importantly, caring for themselves? And number 5, your dedicated spot for asking questions. These are the 5 things of application that are going to help, I think, with the student identity we talked about before. And these are the skills that are going to help with learner agency, independence. And if we can get ourselves and our students squared away with these 5 things, the academic learning is really going to take off, and you're not going to have as many barriers to that because you've already set the stage for everyone to be successful. All right, my friends, you're going to head over to the Google group. That's where we're going to be. I can't wait to see your links and your examples and your schedules and your pictures and your videos and whatever else you've got rocking and rolling. Post them over there. We're going to be live. We're going to be action. And make sure you check back as people are coming into this module from different places and times. It's just going to continue to culminate, and it's going to be amazing. All right, my friends, I know this video is a little long, but it's all built in here. Let's get off to the races with this video here coming in at 12 and the other video at 5 and the other video at 2. We are sitting at a little under 20 minutes. It gives you 40 minutes of this 60-minute module to just build, experiment, test things out, and share and communicate. All right, my friends, stay awesome. My sloth says stay awesome. Get those laser beams like the T-Rex. Let's kick some butt. And remember, stay awesome. Peace.